Hi, everyone. We are so excited to talk to you about who you really are. Today is about remembering. And this is something that Jen and I talk about often throughout our podcast. And we felt called from spirit to really dive deep into the subject and really explore this. That way you feel this deeper understanding and of who you really are as a divine being and what that looks like in the Aquarian age. Welcome to Modern Sages Podcast.
I'm Jenn Gilbreth.
And I'm Candace Coons.
With over 25 years combined, we have delivered messages from beyond,
explored ancient healing wisdom, and integrated these profound teachings into our everyday life.
We are passionate about creating new ways of being human in the modern age by integrating the wisdom of the past with the present and coming into remembrance of who we truly are.
Are you ready to change your relationship to life itself? If the answer is yes, your journey begins now.
Awesome, beautiful, beautiful. So excited. Before we get started, I wanted to read a testimonial that we received on social media. This is from Stacy B. And she says, I want to thank you ladies so much for sharing your insight and wisdom. This podcast has truly transformed the way that I look at life and the challenges that I'm facing today. That is so beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Ooh, I felt that in my heart.
Yes, that is just,
thank you.
Yes, that is what we're hoping to do, is to help bring transformation and remembrance into all of our lives to help us really be empowered in this life. And so thank you so much for that testimonial. And also, if you feel like you want to, write a review or testimonial or message us, we would love to hear feedback from you as well.
Yes, please, sisters and brothers. We love that. Yeah. And speaking of connection, we are going to talk about hops today because, of course, one of the best ways to come back into this remembrance is connecting into the natural plant medicines of our Mother Earth, what she provides to us, and honoring her wisdom in her plant medicines and the spirits that come with the plant medicine. And hops is what we're going to be talking about today. Gosh, Jen, do you realize that we have talked about, what has it been, like 26 different herbs now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
From season 1, season 2, and now we're into season 3.
Yes.
I tell you, if people use these herbs, they would have the most amazing apothecary ever. Home apothecary.
Absolutely.
Yes, we covered everything pretty much. But hops is so wonderful because, of course, everybody recognizes hops and beer. This is a powerful herb. It helps with anxiety and depression, helps you relax, helps with insomnia. You can have this in a tea. The hops has kind of different flavors depending on where it's grown, what region it's grown in. Some are more mild, some are more citrusy, some have a more floral kind of flavor. But I highly recommend using hops in tea. I feel like that's the best way. You can take it in cap form mixed with other herbs, which are great too. But if you want to receive the most medicinal benefits from this herb, I would highly recommend doing a tea.
Yeah. And what I'm learned is the bitterness, it's a little bit bitter, and the bitterness kind of provides this new bile and this acid in your stomach that also aids in digestion. And so it helps with digestion, it helps with insomnia, it helps with anxiety, it helps calm you down. It's good for pain relief. There's so many amazing things that can really help get your body moving again.
Yeah, and it helps balance hormones.
Yes.
And it also has anti-aging properties, right? I thought that was fascinating, as I didn't know that about hops. I didn't know about the anti-aging. I knew that it helped with relaxation, insomnia, anxiety, depression. But I did not know that it helped regulate hormones, especially estrogen. And it also helps, with anti-aging properties. I guess it gives you a natural glow, they say. If you drink hops, it can really just improve your overall skin texture. So that's pretty neat too.
Yeah, a lot of amazing benefits. So if this is something that calls to you, we would definitely suggest to give hops a try.
Yes, absolutely. Wait, we're talking about something very central today
Yes.
to the spiritual path, Jen.
Yeah. And
Yeah, this is powerful.
I've been having a lot of communication and talking to a lot of people. And I feel like a lot of us are really being impacted by the heaviness of this physical journey. We all know we experience hardship. We all know we experience a lot of joy, and there is a lot of sadness, whether it's separation, whether there's, a loss of a loved one. There's just so much that we experience here that it can be so easy for us to get stuck or to forget that there's more to life than what we're experiencing. And I feel like a lot of us are feeling that right now. A lot of us are feeling this sadness or trying to navigate through uncertain waters or unpredictable waters. And I don't know, I just feel like it's so important to help remember and remind people that we are so much more than what we're experiencing here, because we can get overwhelmed and overswept with the emotions of this physical journey and forget who we are.
Absolutely. We're coming into a time that's very uncertain. Even right now, the things that are going on with Ukraine and Russia, and I feel that energetically. We're not energetic islands. We do pick up on other people's energies and feelings. We are connected into the collective. We're connected into interdimensional realities. There's so much to us.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like this is what's really going to come up to the forefront at this time, because we're going through this mass awakening, really. Anything that's in the way of us not remembering, those things that have kept us asleep for thousands of years as a collective, those imbalances that tend to draw us back into the drama, into a deep sleep, are really going to be coming up into the forefront. Areas where we feel imbalance or injustice are going to be coming up to the forefront, because we're moving into a time where we're waking up to our multidimensional self. We're realizing that we're not just a body, and that whole experience of enlightenment and awakening is not reserved for a special few, for the prophets or the teachers, the old teachers of old, that were able to bring forth these wisdom teachings like Jesus and Buddha and Krishna and Muhammad and all the different teachers from around the world. It's not just reserved. Those experiences of enlightenment and awakening are not reserved just for them. We're all divine. That wouldn't be fair, right?
Right.
To say that only some are divine and some can wake up and yet still be here, right? Because these were individuals who were awake in the remembrance of who they were, and yet they were still in a body. They were still here to share the teachings, to help activate a remembrance in all those they came into contact with. That's what they did. And now it's like that opportunity is being given to us, to people all over the planet, which is really exciting.
It's kind of neat because as you're speaking, I'm just picturing in my mind, even Christ, before he did the Sermon on the Mount, right? He had fasted 40 days and 40 nights. So he had taken time to come back into himself to then move forward with full power. And we learn about Buddha, how he also, I think his story is so fascinating, but he also left where he was at. He left what was going on so that he could find out a way to help ease suffering. And he left, and he also was by himself. He retreated to himself to then share this wisdom that has been impactful. And so I'm sure we look at all the different thought leaders, and not even thought leaders, but all these different amazing, amazing teachers that they retrieved within to then move forward without. And that retrieval is really important for all of us to know, is that we have that power to go within, to find our answers and to move forward. And a lot of us
Mm,
in this time navigating through the Aquarian age and this awakening is we have gone in, we have been retrieving those diamonds. And it's like, now what? How do I move forward?
mhm.
How do I live in the world now with all of these changes? And
Yes.
we just want you to know that you're heard and that we see you and that we feel you and that you're not alone. And that navigating can be scary and overwhelming, but it's so exciting at the same time. And you matter, and what you have to share and to say matters as well. And if you want to be someone who shares and talks, but you just aren't sure yet, well, maybe this is an invitation to go within, to take that time to really listen to your heart, to get rid of the outside voices so that you can be empowered and you can be fully connected with yourself. I know for me and for Candace, I'm going to speak for you too, because I know it's true, is that in order for us to fully be expressed, we constantly are having to go back within all of the time. Is like,
Mhm.
did you pray? Did you read? Did you pull cards? Did you meditate? Like, we're constantly re-reminding each other as well of what we've
Mhm.
been learning on our own individual time. And I think that's important because in order for us to fully navigate and to re-remember who we are, it's those little principles every single day that are going to
Yes.
help us remember, because we can have big aha experiences, but more than likely, most of us will have those not as often as we wish. And it's the little things that really make up the huge difference.
Yes. And when you're coming into your awakening, it's sort of like, when you wake up in the morning and you open your eyes a little bit, then you close your eyes again, you go back to sleep for a little bit, then you open your eyes. It's not usually something that all of a sudden you just open your eyes and you're awake and that's it. And you feel completely energized, completely alert. You can see clearly, all of those things. It takes a little bit of time to be able to get up. Like I can't even see clearly for the first 15, 20 minutes when I'm up. I usually have to have a cup of coffee or something to get myself. I can't even see you very clearly, but so it takes me a while to wake up. And this is such a great metaphor for what spiritual awakening looks like or feels like, because when you are remembering, what we mean by remembrance is awakening. You are being given an opportunity to awaken, to wake up into who you really are, into the path of what, and this is what I love so much too, in the Gospel of Mary Magdalene. And I don't know if you've read the Gospel of Mary Magdalene.
I read some of it. Yeah.
Well, she talks about the path of the true human being. And she says
Mm-hmm.
that that was a teaching that Christ gave her and to the disciples, was what it meant to be a true human being. And when she talks in her Gospel of Mary Magdalene, she says, she really emphasizes the teaching that there's nothing unholy about being human and this human experience. In fact, part of the game in essence is to remember who you are while being human. And then you realize, because when you come into remembrance and your awakening, you realize that the things that have happened to you in your life don't define you, that you are untouchable, that your divinity, your power, your greatness, your wisdom is inside of you. It's not something that you need to go get and something that you need to earn, that you and your true essence of who you really are is the essence of that love, that power inside of you. And that for me is what resonates with me 100% as far as like what I teach and how I lead, because I have no desire to not share these tools or these different things that have helped me come back into that remembrance. There's nothing inside of me that's not inside of you.
Yeah.
And while you're going through this awakening process, you need tools. And there are certain tools that have helped me, and I tend to lean on those shamanic teachings because really that's what it's doing. It's kind of bringing you back into this remembrance. It's almost like a waking up out of a sleep into the remembrance of who you really are. And then you realize that you can choose into a life that is fulfilling and peaceful and full of love and full of joy. And you can create beauty here now by choosing to look at your past in a way like they have the beauty prayer and shamanic teachings, which says, I see beauty behind me. I see beauty in front of me. I see a beauty above me, below me. It's all around me, which means that everything had to happen exactly the way it did for the growth of everyone involved. It's
Mm-hmm.
beautiful. It's perfect, just the way it is. And when you come into remembrance of who you are, you realize that all of those challenges that you had led you up to the moment of remembrance. Because if you hadn't been uncomfortable, you wouldn't have sought out opportunities for healing. And
Absolutely.
what brings about true healing? Remembrance.
Mm-hmm.
That is your freedom. That is the liberation from your pain. So, this is why it's so powerful. That may be simple, but it's the most powerful tool that you have.
Yeah.
It really is.
And I remember even when we got started, when I started to work with you, I had experienced very heavy. There was a couple of experiences in my life that were very heavy, and I just didn't know. I didn't know how to navigate through it. And I was like, I would rather just cut everyone off, cut off my gifts instead of face it. And I think that you helping me remember over and over and over again that yes, I'm experiencing this, but it's not me, gave me a better perspective. And so, as an example, we're not perfect. We also, Candace and I,
Yes.
are human. We go through things we have to navigate, and it's the tools that we can use that can really help empower us and to move us forward. And I
Yes.
just keep thinking about this experience that I had. A good friend of mine got married, and I wore a dress that was a different color than the rest of them at the wedding. And it was an off shade. And in my mind, I thought it would work. You know, with different pictures I'd seen with other people, I thought it would be just fine. And then when I got there, it was like completely different. And I was so, so, so worried. And I had this fear of being like being disowned or being kicked out and not being accepted. And like all of this was so heavy in my space. And I was like, I ruined the wedding. I did this, I did that. And for literally 4 days after, I was sick to my stomach. I was so depressed. I was so low. And it was like I had to constantly remind myself. And I would go and I would journal and I would do breath work and I would put on oils and it sounds like something so dumb for someone outside of that, but like that's one of my biggest weaknesses and wounds and fears is letting someone else down and not being accepted or having someone think less of me. And so it was like just this thing right in my face. It was like there and there and there and there.
Yeah.
And it was a constant reminder like I had to take time over and over and over again to reconnect in where sometimes and that to me would look like journaling, it would look like meditation. It would look like going for a walk. I made my own specific oil blend that I was constantly putting on to remember to breathe and to remind myself that I would be okay. And I know that someone outside listening, it was like, that sounds so ridiculous, but it was so real for me
Oh, yes.
and so heavy. And I talked to you about it. I was like, I don't know what that, like, it was so much. And I had tools to move through it where I'm still like, oh, like, yeah, that really sucked. And I still have like, I'm like, oh, that was really like, just, I could have done so many things to prevent that. But I learned so
Oh,
much from it as well. Like you
there
can
was
just
layers.
feel it. Yeah.
Yeah, then there was layers and layers to it. And this is what's amazing because part of the remembrance is like an unraveling process.
Yes.
And some of the tools that you also used was doing inner child work,
Mm-hmm.
understanding it was this core fear of being rejected
Yeah.
and being perceived as different. And then really because it was about wanting to be loved and wanting to be accepted and safe, feeling
Mm-hmm.
safe.
Mhm.
And then we also did past life regression work as well, which connected into another experience that reflected back to you a scenario where someone was taken, literally burnt to death because she was different. She was rejected from her community. And there is that fear like, gosh, if they knew who I was or my gifts, I may be rejected, I may be killed, I may be pushed away. So there was like, this affected you on a physical,
So
emotional,
many
mental, and
layers.
spiritual level. And so you used so many tools. You went and you did the work, the inner work, the inner child work. You did the past life regression. You used your essential oils. You used your meditation. You did all of these things, which would keep bringing you back to your center. Because anyone who's done inner child work knows that when you do inner child work and you connect in with that root energy, the one that's at the root of this, the fear, right? You start to recognize your innocence.
Mhm.
It's like, oh, I can understand why you would feel this way. And what happens when we don't address those energies is that that core energy will manifest in endless different ways in this lifetime and other lifetimes until we just turn and look into that shadow. And then once you're able to hold space for that, it starts to release its bondage to you.
Yeah.
And it opens up this remembrance into your purity and your innocence and your power. And it opens up a gateway into the higher realms and the remembrance of who you really are. So it's like these tools that we're talking about are life changing. It's
Mhm.
not something that is just fluff and philosophy. Remembrance is your key
I love it.
to
Yeah.
liberation and freedom. It really is one of the keys. And that is what Christ taught. He helped you remember that you are a son and daughter of the creator of all things. This is also what Krishna taught. This is also what Buddha taught. It's like we keep being brought back to this core teaching that we are all one, that we're all brothers and sisters, and that we are divine, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And so it's like, but you coming into your gifts was no small thing. It's like you not only had to transmute and stand in the fire of being different in this lifetime, but it also unraveled layers upon layers of fears that were connected to it. And it manifested in so many different ways.
And your fears show up for you too,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Is having this fear of not being accepted or rejected. And then even having someone of my church be like, hey, if you do this, you're never going to get married. Like, just know
Oh,
that you're never going to. And that was like
oh
this
my
huge fear
goodness.
in all of myself. And it was like just over and over and over again. And so when I had that experience at the wedding, I was like, I thought I moved through this. Why am I experiencing this again? Which made it even more heavy. And it's
Yeah.
like, there are some things that we're here to learn and to learn and to learn. But as we see that and as we remember, oh, I'm more than this, these are fears showing up. It's a learning opportunity.
It
And
really
it's
is.
not easy sometimes. It's like, well, I'm done learning this. Why is it here? But it still
Oh
shows
my
up
gosh,
and it's
Jen.
okay. And it's just continually moving forward.
You just brought up something that is so core too, because I think when we are connecting in with our gifts, which, those gifts sometimes are connected to our soul mission, things that we are here to share with others. Anything that is in the way of that is going to come up for you, because when you're sharing your gifts, you're shining your light brightly. You are connected with something inside of you that is beyond time and space. And your divine nature is beyond time and beyond space. So it's a path of remembrance. So when you share your gifts, it's a path of remembrance as well.
Yeah.
And how bluntly these things tried inside of you that showed up in your life in your matrix to block you
Mm-hmm.
from truly shining your light. And a lot of people who are in organized religions will say, oh, that is the negative energy or the Satan or whatever energy that's trying to keep you from doing the right thing, or you must be really, really close, because if you are having all of these things come up trying to block you from sharing your gifts or trying to put you in fear, then that is, that bad energy that's trying to keep you from shining your light, but I think what it is, it's really the shadows. It's the things that we carry in our epigenetics and our energetics, our DNA, the things that we've been holding on to that have been holding us back in this lower frequency. And when you're rubbing up against your gifts, which is that high frequency, and the more you do it, it kind of moves you into that path of remembrance. It raises frequency. You're shining your light brightly. It's like those things are going to come up because you're like, well, why do I know I've got these amazing gifts to share. And yet I have people say the most awful things, like Jen, the things that people have said to you over the years, I mean, would have taken anybody's knees out. I mean, these were big things,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like you had such a light to shine. And so it's like those things that were brought up, that light is shining on those shadows, and it's bringing in people to you to teach different things or provide opportunity for you to stand in your fire and your truth and transmute that energy. It's powerful work you're doing. This is life work that we're doing.
Yeah.
And so I just saw that as you were talking. I'm like, this is such a perfect example, because like those challenges didn't happen to you to keep you from shining your light. They happened because those were things or energies that were being carried within your energetics that
Mm-hmm.
were holding you back from shining your light fully and
Yeah. And
moving into that higher frequency of expression.
yeah, and that's connected to ancestral stuff. It's connected to past lives. It's connected to being accepted in this life. So there's
Yeah.
so much that we're learning every single day in this lifetime. And it's not about woe is me, I've experienced these. Like, it's not about that. It's
No, because we
about
all go through it.
how we can move forward, how we can remember
Mm-hmm.
who we are. And we remember that we are here for a short time, but our spirit is so much more. And when we can connect back into our spirit, we can connect back into that higher self, God's love, that understanding. It gives us permission to unapologetically be ourselves. And a
Yes.
lot of us are being called into that space right now, but are so worried about what others will think. And you probably will have people not understand, not agree. But when you can step back into your purpose, back into aligning who you are, you have power to move forward. And
Yes.
it's so scary.
Like you think about the witch wound, Jen, here it is again.
Here it is.
Because when you are coming back into remembrance of who you are and you are waking up, all of those gifts of spirit start to be activated because you are a multidimensional being.
Mm-hmm.
That is a natural part of the awakening process. So it's not just certain people like Jen and I who have certain gifts with gifts of spirit. It's no, this is part of it. This is something that everyone is going to be tapping into or recognizing that, oh, wow, I'm clairsentient, or I feel things, or I see things, or I hear things, or I smell that bring memory or messages, or there's all these different ways that our gifts of spirit can communicate with us. And so those start waking up, but all the shadows that are locked into our, like we were talking about in the last episode, our ancestral work or our DNA, the epigenetics, past life memory, all of that stuff starts to kind of like come to the surface, because it's literally like detoxifying, it's transmuting, it's helping you look at this saying, what do you want to do? Do you want to keep it? Do you want to stay stuck in this old energy? Or do you want to heal this and move forward so you can come into the best
Yeah.
version of yourself in this life?
Yeah. And
You
I've
know?
done a lot of healing and clearing and energy stuff. And I have found, without a doubt, and I know you have as well, that journey work has been the thing that
Mhm.
has transformed myself. I've done so many other things and I've relied on other things, and It helped for a while and it kind of put a band-aid over stuff. But why I love journey work so much, Candace, is because it literally, you're not relying on someone else to give you the answers. As you led me to a space in which I could heal myself, for myself, with myself, about myself, everything myself. And
Yeah.
spirit was guiding it. God was there guiding it, bringing that into fruition. And I was just a part of it happening. And yet it was so much more in depth than what I in this physical world could have ever thought it to be. And it has changed so much. And I'm not perfect. I'm still experiencing it. I still have those ups and downs.
Right. You still got to be human.
Yes, but it made a huge impact. And that's why we're
Yeah.
both so passionate about the shamanic path and ceremonies and retreats and offering these meditations online. Like, we just want to help others because life can be so hard to navigate through. And we want
Mhm.
to be that voice of remembrance. Hold on, slow back, like, slow down, look back. You're so much more than this. What are you feeling in life? What are you experiencing? Why are you doing, like, the relationships that you have? What are you supposed to be learning from them? Is it good to
Yes.
keep going or is that relationship done? Are you feeling connected? Are you doing what you're called to do? Like, we are here to bring empowerment. And I feel like that's generations back. That's what medicine women did in the ancient times. People would come to them in their
Yes.
communities before doctors were a thing, and they would help with herbs and they would help in the Norse traditions that the medicine woman would draw runes and do a deep soul search, a soul retrieval with these runes, give them messages, help clear everything, and bring them back into balance. And we are so desperately needing that in this life right now to be re reminded of who we are. And
Yes.
you are so, so, so much more than this physical journey. You are powerful. You are loved. You are kind. You are deserving. And yes, you're going to face hardship. We all do, but there is
Yes.
hope. You are full of hope. You are full of love and light. Just as much as that darkness is in you, you have all the answers to heal and to move forward. It's just opening up yourself to a new possibility.
Amen, sister. Yeah. Pain has purpose. You're
Absolutely.
not doing something wrong if you feel pain. Okay. You're here to be human. You're going to have the experience of duality. But you're not, like we've talked this again, you're not your body, you're not this meat suit. You're not your emotions. You're not your mind. That is the vehicle that you're riding in this human experience. And when you come back into remembrance, you realize you're the observer, that you've come into this hologram in essence, in a sense, but it's physical too, but it has this reality of humanness, what that means. And so when you are feeling bad, when you're feeling heavy emotion, when you're or having negative thought patterns, when you're physically feeling bad, instead of trying to judge it and say, I need to fix this, because and have that be your first reaction. It's like, okay, I automatically need to fix this. I need to move forward. I need to move out of it. I need to escape. I need to do something. Instead of that, what we're inviting others to do is actually sit back into your heart space and just observe, hold space for yourself to fully feel, to fully listen, to fully be with whatever is coming up for you in this moment, and being your own best friend, holding space. It's like being held by the great mother, right? And the reason you can do that is because what you're feeling, what you're emotionally feeling, physically or emotionally feeling or mentally, does not define you. You are beyond that. It's an experience you're having here being human. And that is part of that remembrance. It's like, oh, I'm having this experience, but this doesn't measure my worth.
Yes.
This doesn't measure if I'm doing a good job or a bad job at this human thing. This is what I'm experiencing. This pain has purpose to give me direction about what my next choice is going to be, or how I'm going to receive this wisdom in my life. You know, For example, let's say physically you're feeling awful because you keep filling your body with junk food and this and that, and doing things to your body that doesn't make it feel good. It's like, okay, I do it. I know I shouldn't be doing it. And then that night I end up doing it. I feel like crap the next day. And the cycle continues. Okay.
Uh-huh.
If we all do stuff like this. And so sitting back into it doesn't mean that we're not going to take action eventually. But what it means is that if you sit back into your heart space and say, what is at the root of this? Why am I putting things into my body that I know are not recognized on a molecular level? So that means that they don't break down easily in the body. They're actually poison for the body. They get lodged in the fat cells for storage because the body doesn't know how to digest it or to take it to the right organs or the blood system, because it's a foreign food full of sugar and preservatives or colorings or whatever we do. And it's being put over there because that's what our body does, because it's an intelligent machine that we're working with. Why do I keep doing that? And 9 times out of 10, it's not because you're hungry. It's not because, that is really what your body is craving. It's connected to some emotion or mental process. And really just being able to sit and listen and say, what are you feeling? What is truly what you have been feeling? Or maybe it's rooted in not feeling grounded or whatever, but there's usually some other connection to that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we don't truly feel it, it will control, you'll start giving into the action of that negative action.
Mm-hmm.
But if you truly feel what was feeling or what is behind the action by sitting in the heart space and truly listening, recognize you don't have to take it personally, whatever you find there. Okay.
Yeah.
That then you can say, I now remember who I am in truth.
Yep.
And now I'm going to choose into a healthier choice.
Yeah.
Or a healthier option. It puts you back in your power.
Absolutely.
So, but our natural human tendency is always to push forward, to try to plow through things, to try to, instead we're inviting you to sit back. Like I need to do right now with this reflection of the sun. But just sit back in your heart space, because that is where you're going to find the direction with that feeling.
Absolutely.
You'll know what to do. The wisdom will come up inside of you. You are the embodiment of wisdom. Trust yourself.
Well, and I love that too, because it's not, we always talk about over labeling or over identifying with a circumstance.
Mm-hmm.
And when we can remember that what we experience doesn't define us, we are experiencing it, but yet it does not define me.
Yes.
That is something that I remind myself
core
constantly.
Mm-hmm. Core teaching, because you can't come back into remembrance if you're constantly identifying with things.
Mm-hmm.
This is where I have issues with all the labels that we have right now. We're being bombarded with information and everybody's trying to identify with labels and roles and this and that, even gender. And for me, it's like, okay, we have to be so careful with this. If we're always looking outside of ourselves to say, this is who I am, and I'm going to fight to the end. Not only am I going to fight to the end, but the drastic measures that humans have taken over history to stand up for things that they feel that they are, instead of, that is a huge distraction. If you don't lean back into who you really are, you can't truly see your brothers and sisters of humanity. You don't see them. Yes. You are projecting things onto them. And you're also projecting things onto yourself.
Yes.
That are not there.
Well, and along with that, I just keep thinking of when we're feeling extremely anxious and we're like, I've looked at this, I've done this, I've been aware of this, but it keeps coming up. There's also a thought is, are you truly authentically sitting with it? Or are we sitting about 35% way back? It's intimidating and it's vulnerable to just be like, this is what I'm feeling. This is what I'm experiencing. This is who I am. which is also why journaling, writing, and releasing is so powerful too. Because a lot of times is we might sit back 35% of the way, or maybe 82%. And there's like, it's hard for us to fully want to be 100% sitting with it. But it's like we can do those things little at a time when we're peeling back the layers. And so give yourself grace and give yourself permission, but also ask yourself, have I authentically expressed myself in this way or given myself permission to feel that or to explore it? What I feel doesn't define me, but yet it's a part of what I'm experiencing. And so give yourself permission to feel that. On our
Yes.
podcast in the rituals, which was in season 1, we talked about having a bath ritual where you can sit back and you can take a bath and set intention and let things go. And that kind of stuff is beautiful when we can do those things monthly, daily, weekly for a while. It gives us the space to remember and reconnect. Everything is
Mhm.
intention, everything is symbolic, and there is a shedding. We are releasing layers and layers and layers. And so you're not bad or wrong. You're not moving forward, you're not stuck or stagnant. It's just today, how can I keep unraveling? How can I keep filling myself with love, with understanding, with compassion? Because I am so much more than this. And the relationships that I have, there's a reason, there's a contract, there's a lesson learned. And if I don't make myself wrong or make them wrong, what am I missing that I can't see? And that's what
Yes.
we're being called to. And this is what this amazing work does, is it truly helps us to remember, to reconnect, and to have a rebirth of who we are and what we want.
Yes. There's so many things that came to my mind as you were talking. Like one of the things that you mentioned was it may feel vulnerable, right? When you're coming back into this unraveling process and remembrance, it's very, very common to feel vulnerable because for so long we identified with our emotions.
Mhm.
We're like, if I feel this emotion fully, it's going to mean something about me. And I'm afraid to look there. I'm afraid to look there, right? What you find over time, though, is when you really feel things, emotions are energy in motion. It's just energy, it's just an experience that you're having. But our emotions are connected to our inner child. And we shouldn't shame a child. We should never shame a child. We should never tell a child that they don't have a right to feel what they feel. It doesn't mean that it's okay what you do with that action. We're not talking about the action aspect, but what we're talking about is the emotion. That is an experience.
Yeah.
And there's something that you're trying to retrieve from that experience, some kind of wisdom,
Mhm.
whether you're a child, an adult, an older person, doesn't matter what your age is. But at the same time, when you are in a place of remembrance and you know that that emotion doesn't define you, you're able to feel it and say, ooh, this is juicy.
Mhm.
This is an intense experience. This makes me feel more alive
Yeah.
and here in this human body and human existence. Wow, what is this?
Why am
You,
I feeling this?
yeah,
Why is
you
it showing
cultivate this
up?
compassion and curiosity with yourself because you know that's not you. It's an experience you're having. So then instead of feeling vulnerable and scared about it, because you know that can't define you, you start to look at it and say, what is this? I'm curious.
Yeah.
It
And
has a different frequency and energy with it
it
when you rub up
does.
against it.
Yeah. And I am such a huge component too. I feel like I always come back to this at almost at the end of everything is that it is important that you do feel this, that you embrace yourself fully and give yourself that permission. But also, you don't have to let everybody in on your transformation and your change.
Yeah.
You know who to talk to and who not to talk to. And you also know what feels right for you, and having boundaries is a huge part of this self-expression and this awakening. Is if you don't trust somebody fully, or you've had times where maybe you've been burned by that person, yes, you can look into the contracts and why that's happening, but don't make yourself feel like you have to tell everyone everything that you're learning and that you're growing with, because not everything needs to be shared out loud. You can talk about things, but also finding people who are going to support you and honor you and see the good within you instead of pull you back, I feel like is a big thing too. And so it's
Yes.
also knowing that sacred is sacred and you can share that with people. And it's also important to know that you don't have to share it with everybody. If you feel
Yes.
like, I don't want to talk to that person about this, or maybe I normally always tell them stuff and I'm feeling like I need to pull back a little bit, like honor that, because there are reasons why. But also, some things are just meant for you to mull over and to think about and you to express, because who you are in this moment might be different in the next 6 months. And maybe you tell someone something and they don't let you relive it or let it go, and it holds you heavy as well. And so
Yes.
finding your people, honoring yourself, I'm a huge component, and then I always will be because of what I've experienced. But also, it also is the space of being vulnerable and saying, you know what, I do want to talk about this more, share this. And there's a balance, there's a balancing act in it all. But also, it's okay for you to have boundaries for other people. That's part of this journey
Yes.
too.
It's part of that self-love and
Yep.
respect.
Yep.
Like you're talking about that, it reminded me of one of the things they taught us as teachers. They said, when you have something that you need to, if a child is acting out, or if there's something that needs to be discussed, reprieve in private. So you don't talk about this in front of the whole class. You take the child out to the hallway or someplace private, and then you talk to them about their behavior. You listen to what they have to say and express their feelings. If we could all like approach ourselves in that way, or like a mother to a child, that just protective, and say, you know what, who has the right to hear my child's story? I do. But not everybody is ready for that, nor has the right to do
Yeah.
that. So I feel like that is such that self-respect, love, boundaries that you're talking about. It's like if we can approach what we're feeling and our stories and the things that it's telling us, and be very respectful to ourselves and make sure we don't share that with just anyone, I think that
Yeah.
is so healthy.
Yeah. And many healers, we feel like, oh, I want to tell this person this and that and this. And I learned very quickly, being a medium, that I don't just go around blabbing my mouth to everybody, because for those who I tried to connect into who weren't open, it wasn't as effective and it actually could be more painful or more harmful. And so, even knowing that, like setting boundaries for yourself to spirit is like, hey, I'm open and I'm willing if it's supposed to happen, but also I'm here to live for me. And that's also honoring yourself as well. And it's honoring the people around you, because maybe you feel like you have an answer or you want to tell them everything, you're moving in this new direction, but it's also someone else's life and someone else's experience to live. So you can be a listening ear, but you don't have to change anybody or give
No.
them the answer. They have it themselves. It's an I lesson. And I like to kind of bring this up in our closing too, is we come here and we learn to rely on everyone else, to seek everyone else's approval, to ask for help. And then at the same time, those major soul lessons that we came here to learn, I call them our I lessons, is an individual lesson. Only you can learn that lesson. So if you have a daughter
Yes.
who's struggling, who you want to take away their pain, you literally can't do that. You can't take it
Mm-mm.
away, because those soul changing lessons are I lessons. It's a one person lesson. And you can try to ease the burden. You can try to do all that you can, but it's not, you can help them, but you can't learn the lesson for them. You can be a listening ear, you can offer love and support. But the minute that you try to take that burden on or to carry it on yourself, is you're doing them a disfavor and you're doing you a disfavor. We all
Yes.
have I lessons to learn, and it's painful and it's amazing and it's all the things we came here to learn. And so if you have someone who you're really struggling with or you want to help them, maybe look at that and see, okay, this is an I lesson for them. What can I do to help assist them, but not take away their lesson? Because you
Exactly.
didn't come here to take it away.
Yes. Well, the definition of sorcery is when you enforce your will upon someone else. We're all here to have this human experience, and pain has purpose. It is a two-sided coin. You know, on one side, we can get caught up in the pain. On the other side, there is wisdom, and all pain is part of that step, that process of awakening, one way or another. There's an opportunity of awakening through every challenge that you are faced with. A lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah.
They're like, well, how fair was it that I experienced rape or sexual abuse or this? Or you're telling me that those things happened because they were a part of my awakening? Yes, I am. Yes, I am. You can either focus on the trauma and over-identify with it forever and have it bring you down and keep you in the dream. Or you can say, I am way beyond my trauma. I am not my trauma. I am not my story. That happened to me in this human experience, but it is not who I am. And there is your liberation. That's the power of this. You think about the teachings of the butterfly. What is the butterfly telling you? When it was a caterpillar, it was still a butterfly. It went through a transformation process where it had to go within. And when it went within and it came back into remembrance, its whole body transformed and it became a butterfly. It got its wings. It was able to free itself from its bondage.
Yeah.
You know,
So
that
good.
is the path of remembrance that is being given to us. How amazing. How amazing is it that we get to be
Absolutely.
here at this time to remember? So anyway, I hope that everyone was able to gather something from our
Oh,
conversation.
yes. Me too.
We ended up talking longer than we were planning. We were planning on doing this for about 45 minutes, but we could go on and on and on about this subject because really, is there a more important topic? I don't know if there is.
I don't think so. I think that
This is so
closing up,
important.
we just need to offer up a prayer of gratitude, of thanking our angels, our ancestors, God, all of those who have brought such deep wisdom into this earth for our lessons, for what we've learned. You know, we are here for a purpose, and we thank you for this remembrance, for this guidance, and for the strength that we have. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And so it is.
And so it is.
Beautiful. Well, blessings, brothers and sisters, on your journey. We look forward to our next conversation, and we hope you have an amazing week. We'll talk to you soon.
For watching Modern Sages, don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
We are so grateful for your support. If you want to follow us, we have an Instagram account as well as on Facebook. We have our podcast, which is the Modern Sages podcast as well.
And we are so excited to launch our Gifts of Spirit classes in our Modern Sages Mystery School.
Absolutely. Oh, we're so excited. So we're going to link the information below in the show notes for more information about our mystery school.